Hey there, my name is Chris, and I am going to be giving you a quick tutorial on how to set up an audio thumbnail activator on your Elgato Stream Deck. Now, this is not to be confused with the activators from the actual vMix activators, although I'll show you exactly how those work as well. But the main thrust of this tutorial is to show you how to do something that mimics an activator, but isn't actually an activator. But you'll see what I mean in a moment. Now, if you've got an Elgato Stream Deck and you've been using vMix, you should know by now that vMix has a plugin for the Stream Deck that allows you to create shortcuts in vMix and assign them to buttons on the Elgato Stream Deck. And those buttons have some extended functionality because of the plugin. And that's what we're going to be accessing today. So there's two specific types of Stream Deck buttons that the plugin allows you to use. The one is a shortcut and the other one is an activator. So let's first have a look at the activators themselves. So I've got a couple of examples here on a Stream Deck, and I apologize for the lighting. But what I have is a vMix instance that has been set up. It's got a single microphone input, and we have an activator that is monitoring the status of that microphone, whether the audio is on or not. And we have a shortcut set up. You can just kind of make it out. It's a little microphone with a pop filter in front of it. Something which I'm not using today, the pop filter. So if we press the shortcut, what we see is two things. Firstly, the activator button comes on. And secondly, the button on the shortcut itself has also changed, and it's got a live symbol indicator on it. Now, this tutorial, we're going to create an activator just so that you can see how to do it, but there are other tutorials that have been done already to make these activators. But this tutorial is really about how to get the thumbnail of the shortcut in the Elgato Stream Deck to show that live indicator. So there you go, it's now switched off. All right, so how exactly do we do that? Let's have a quick look at our vMix setup first. So this is just vMix Basic HD. It allows you to have 4 inputs, and these are the, well, I've got 3 inputs active at the moment, and these are the 3 inputs that you need. So you need 3 inputs essentially to set up these, this one button on the Elgato Stream Deck. You have your audio input, of course. So the audio input over here. You have a thumbnail for the audio input, and you have your live indicator. And that is just a PNG. So if we look here in my tutorial folder, I've got, we can ignore that. We don't need that. It's not part of the tutorial. We've got a microphone thumbnail, and we've got a live indicator thumbnail. And these two images are the correct size for an Elgato Stream Deck. So I think like 400 by 400 pixels, something like that. Okay. So let's do this from scratch so that you can see exactly how everything is done. So we'll just start a new vMix presentation preset, yes, and we're going to add our audio input, and I don't have a microphone plugged in here, so I'll just do Blackmagic Audio. Might give me an error. Yep. So we'll just use vMix Audio Bus A. So there's our first audio, and I'm just going to rename this for the purposes of the tutorial to mic, or main mic. That's better. And we can see by default the audio is active. Let's just make sure that it's not automatically mixing, and we're going to turn it off. Then the second input that we need is the thumbnail input for that. So vMix mic, I'll add that in. And finally, we need our live indicator. No, not that image. There we go. Our live indicator. And as I said, that they are just two PNGs that I pre-created beforehand. There's your microphone symbol, and there's your live indicator. So the live indicator is just really a red border that's going to cover over the existing green border with a red bar across the top, the words live, and some transparent red as well. It doesn't really shine through. You kind of need to make it a little bit darker than I have it there. But anyway, there it is. Okay, so we've got our three inputs in now. And now what we want to do is we want to configure our Stream Deck. So I've got an empty Stream Deck profile or Stream Deck folder. And we want to add some buttons to it. So here we go. So the first button we're going to add is simply a shortcut and a shortcut. All right. You'll remember from our example, we had two buttons in here. We had the mic status, which was an activator, and I've just put activator in brackets there. You don't really need to put it in there, and another shortcut there. And if you want to see how that looks, let's get the Elgato there. So on the Elgato itself, this button looks like that. Okay, so the activator, because we haven't configured the inputs just yet, because we haven't done the shortcuts, the input just looks like that. Okay, but in the Stream Deck software, it has a standard vMix plugin button view. Okay, so we go to the tutorial. So here we've got the two over here. We're going to rename this to mic status. There we go. And we're not going to give this a name at all. So we've got our Elgato buttons ready to go. We've got two buttons. One is going to be an activator and one is going to be a shortcut. I haven't renamed this. We can. Let's just call this mic shortcut just for the purposes of the tutorial, but we'll remove this once we finish. This is just so that you can see it in the software and what the intent is behind it. Okay, and you can see that the Stream Deck, the Stream Deck buttons have been renamed with those two little titles that we've got there. Okay, so what is next? So now, the first thing that we've got to do is we need to set up, we're going to connect this button over here, which is this button over here, our mic shortcut, to the microphone input. And what we want the shortcut to do is we want the shortcut to turn the audio on and off. Okay. Let's just do that now. So we go into settings, we go to shortcuts. I've got a lot of shortcuts here, it doesn't matter. We're going to add a shortcut in, we're going to find it on the Stream Deck, we're going to press the button. Oh, hang on, we're going to press the button, hold the button down so that it says Stream Deck button down, and click OK. And the function that we're going to do is we're going to toggle audio mute on and off, and the input is going to be on our main mic input, and we're just going to call this mic toggle. Easy enough. And then we're going to say OK. So let's have a quick look at what has happened on our Stream Deck. Well, nothing has happened. But when we press the button, you'll notice over here the audio is coming on and going off. But that's of limited use, right? Because this looks just like these two. They don't look any different. So what we want this to do is we want this button to reflect exactly what the input is. So if we go back into the shortcuts, and here's our mic toggle. It's conveniently at the top, and edit it. If we change the display to thumbnail and say OK, and OK again, you'll see that the vMix background has disappeared and just the title text is there. Okay, so it's still working, but it's gone black because the main mic input doesn't have anything in it. So what we're going to do is we're going to assign one of the multi-view inputs to use our vMix mic.png. Okay. Now you'll see that let me enlarge that for you. You'll see that the mic shortcut is all squished up, and that's because, remember, the icon that I have added, we see it over here. The icon over here is square, and the vMix preset, the input image, is 16 by 9. So we're just going to stretch this out to fill it up. Go into the position, and we're going to zoom the X out like that. So we stretch it. There we go. Nicely stretched. And now you can see on our Stream Deck, I can just adjust the lighting a little bit for you. It's now filling the button. So the lighting's not great. I do apologize for that, but what can you do? Okay. So we now have a functioning button that has the thumbnail and toggles the audio on and off, on and off. Very handy. Okay. Now, before we configure the buttons, the button activator, we're going to configure the actual vMix activator over here. So remember, we assigned this and we said this is going to be the vMix activator. So let's do that now. So we're going to settings again, and just below shortcuts, we've got activators. I don't have any activators in here, so I'm going to add one in. And once again, I'm going to find this button, press and hold it down, click on OK, and then let it go. And what I want it to do is I want it to check for the input audio event, and I'm going to be watching the main mic, and I'm going to change the type to Streamdeck. And now this drop down will let me choose a whole bunch of different colors. So we're going to choose the industry standard for something is live, which is red. And we're going to say OK. And OK again. So now when this audio goes on, we should see the activator, the mic status activator, light up. And there you see it does. Okay. So we have a working solution right now. We've got a button that will toggle the microphone on and off, and we've got an indicator light that comes on to tell us that we're live and that we're not live anymore. But if you've got one Stream Deck, you know button space is a premium, maybe you don't want to have two buttons dedicated for each input. So instead of having a dedicated activator button, what we're going to do is we're going to put the activator indicator onto the button. Now, unfortunately, vMix doesn't allow you to assign an activator and a thumbnail to a single button. We could go into this and we could change this activator to use the same button as our toggle button. But the problem with that is that it actually overwrites the two overwrite each other. So you can see as I press it, it tries to activate the activator, and sometimes it sort of flickers there, but the toggles button kind of takes over and says, no, 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 you've got to have the thumbnail. That is what we're supposed to have. So we need to do a little bit of a hack. So we're going to change our activator again, just for the sake of the tutorial. We're going to change it back to this button. We're going to say OK and OK again. So now it's working as intended. But what we want to do is we want to add our live indicator to the thumbnail of our main mic input, so that when you press the button, when you press the toggle, the live indicator comes on. And this is how you do it. It's actually very simple. So the first things first is you go into the multi-view and you add the live indicator in the multi-view. We want to stretch it. Whoops, we don't want to pan it. We want to stretch it. Change the zoom X. There we go. So that's just the next layer above the thumbnail. And since our audio is actually off at the moment, we're going to turn that off. Okay. Now what we do is we go back into our shortcuts and we add a second shortcut using the same button. So hold the button down, say OK. But we're going to go into overlay and we're going to say multi-view overlay. The input that we're working on is the microphone input. And the value is going to be 2. And that is, remember, we put the live indicator PNG into the second slot in the multi-view. So layer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 through 10, we put it in layer 2. And we're just going to call this live. We'll call it show that it's live. There we go. And say OK. And we're going to leave that at default. We don't need to change that at all. So remember, when we set up the shortcut to impact the audio, to actually toggle the audio on and off, we changed this display to thumbnail. For the second shortcut that you create that affects the multi-view overlay, just leave it at default. We say OK. So now we've got a mic toggle and a show live, and they're both affecting the main mic input, but the one's turning the audio on or off, and the other one's turning layer 2 in the multi-view overlayer on and off. So let's say OK. And let's press our button now. And as you can see, when we press the button, two things are happening. Firstly, the audio is coming on. And secondly, the button itself is getting its live indicator. And it's corresponding with the mic status activator that's just above it. But that's fine. We don't have to worry about that anymore. We can actually go into the Elgato software and we can now remove that button and hand it over to something else, put another function on it, because we've got everything built into the single button. Now, there's a couple of things to bear in mind when you are doing this sort of thing. The first thing that you need to remember is this method, you can only use it for audio inputs, or for inputs really that are not going to be on screen. Because obviously, if I am configuring my my Elgato Stream Deck button to use the thumbnail of the input, and I'm changing the appearance of that thumbnail through the multi-view layers, if I have that layer live, like I have my camera live at the moment, and I'm overlaying something onto it, that's going to happen live on screen as well. And we don't really want to have that happen. So this method only really works for audio inputs, because the audio inputs are never visually on screen. They're simply adding to the audio stream itself. So that's the first caveat. The second caveat is obviously this adds a number of inputs to your production. So if you have a production that has a limited number of inputs for whatever reason, either because you've only got a vMix Basic HD license, or because you have a lot of other inputs, and your system performance is going to start getting impacted, you might run into issues here. But the thing is you're not actually adding a lot of inputs. You only need a single live indicator input, and that can be used across multiple audio inputs. And the second thing is the second additional thing that you need is a button thumbnail for each of the audio inputs. So for every audio input, you're essentially doubling the number of inputs you have. You've got the audio input itself, and then the thumbnail that you're going to use for that audio input. And then once you've added all of your audio inputs, you need just one additional live indicator thumbnail, and that's a PNG that you reuse across any number of audio inputs. The other thing that you've got to be careful about is this live indicator is not actually state aware. It's not aware, it's not watching the audio input like an activator does and lighting up or responding when the audio goes live. It's simply a toggle. So if you, for example, turn your audio off in vMix itself, the audio is off, and you can see that on the Stream Deck, the button's not changing. And now, if I press that button, the audio has gone on, but the button says that I'm off. So you just have to make sure that mentally you are not toggling the audio somewhere else, i.e. through vMix, or maybe through a web controller, or through a keyboard shortcut or anything like that. Because if you toggle it outside of the Stream Deck itself, the button that toggles the live indicator isn't going to be activated each time you do it. So do everything on the Stream Deck. Once you've set this up, you need to use the Stream Deck button to make the changes each time. And that's it. So if you've got any questions, I guess put it in the comments, and or I don't know, hit me up on Facebook. I'm in the Streaming Idiots group on Facebook, and this is where this video is going to be posted, so you can ask questions in the comments. And if you have functionality that you want to achieve using an Elgato Stream Deck in your vMix, or using something like GT Titles, hit me up as well. I'm happy to do a tutorial on how to do that as well, demonstrate it. All right, thanks for watching.